Thank you for taking the time to watch this video on why selecting the wrong course on systems thinking, systems engineering, or project management could cost you thousands of dollars more than just the fee. I'm Joseph Kasser, and I'm going to show you why. First, a warning. You've seen the advertisements or the advertisements for the course. You decide you'd like to take the course. Stop! Engage brain before accessing your credit card. Think. You may not know what you need to know to select the right course, and you may need to do some research. So in the next 25 minutes or so, I'm going to show you why what you don't know about the course could cost you thousands of dollars more than the course fee. I'll share with you some of my selections over time for different reasons, some selection criteria you need to know, and I'm sure you can come up with others of your own. And I'll talk about the content, the delivery mode, the instructor's qualifications, the cost, the location, the availability of the course to fit your schedule, and of course the schedule of the course, and the EverCourse. It's a 21st century continuing education pedagogy that I developed over 20 years of research. But it's not suitable for all situations, as I'll show you in a moment. Here's why you need to know what I know. I have a reputation for being a successful project manager, systems engineer, and systems thinker in industry and academia, and I have the awards to prove it, including NASA's Silver Snoopy Award, if you know what that is, and a host of publications to my name, some of which I even published when I was in industry before I came to academia. I've been researching systems engineering, systems thinking, and improving postgraduate and continuing education for more than 20 years. And there's me and some of the books I was using at NUS about 10 years ago or so. I pioneered the use of online video lectures on demand and live lectures using real media and phone-free software for voice over the internet at UMUC between 1998 and 2000. I was one of the first instructors, if not the first, to do it, and one of my students in Korea was really happy to actually speak to an instructor. He said he'd never done that before. I taught face-to-face, online, synchronous and asynchronous classes. I introduced knowledge readings, the balanced classroom, and I even have an award from the National University of Singapore for using magic in the classroom. My student course evaluations are mostly in the upper percentiles. The students who come to the course to want to learn really like what I teach and the way I teach it. The students who are just in the course to pass it with the least amount of work don't like it because my courses require a lot of work, but you learn so much more. Here's another reason. This is not me speaking, this is Jack Ring, who published it back in 2009. He wrote, "Joseph is outstanding in the field of systems design and engineering, not only as a practitioner, but more importantly as an innovator of ways of educating others about the concepts, methods, and benefits of the practice. I am familiar with the works of more than 40 educators and mentors in this field and can say without equivocation that Joe is in the 3% who make 90% of the difference. Listen to this man." And let me modestly say that in the 18 years since then, I think I've been improving myself. So why do you want to take a course? Get a qualification for promotion? Learn something new? Learn how to solve a specific problem? Become outstanding in what you do? Travel or visit a new location? Meet other people and build a personal network? Or for another reason? If all you want to do is get a qualification for promotion, you probably know more about most of the subjects that you're going to take in that qualification than the instructor. So look around for the easiest course that you can take to get that qualification, because after all, you've got other things to do in your time. I remember when I was working and bringing up a family, I had 3 red-headed kids, and I wanted to get a master's degree. So I realized once you have a master's degree, nobody really cares what it's in, as long as it's a master's. So I found a Master of Science at George Washington University. The actual degree was Master of Science in Special Studies. It took me 2 nights a week for 2 years. I did the homework during my lunchtime at the office, so I had plenty of free time at home to deal with my family, hobbies, and friends. and other things. If you want to learn something new, read a book. There's probably little added value in taking the course, unless of course you're using the course to force you to read the book. Some people need to do that. If you want to learn how to solve a specific problem, but then you need to know what the specific problem is and whether the course will deal with it. If you want to become outstanding in what you do, you've got to think about that a lot. You want to travel, visit a new location. I remember years ago, 30, 40 years ago, signing up for courses where I had to travel to California or to New York so I could visit California, San Francisco, or New York more than the course. If you want to meet other people and build a personal network, then you've got to work out which kind of course delivery mode gives you the best opportunity to do that. And whatever other reason you have, you've got to figure out the best kind of course to meet your goal. The first selection criterion I want to talk about are the instructor's credentials. Does the instructor have successful real-world experience, or has the instructor been in academia for all its career? And if it has real-world experience, look for awards and achievements on the resume. Just because somebody's got 20 years of experience doesn't mean to say it's useful experience. That person could have been repeating the same thing all the time. Look and see, is the resume a job description, or does it tell you what the person achieved? What about the instructor's education and knowledge? A diploma just means the instructor has passed the exams. May not know anything about how to apply the information memorized to pass the exam. Has the instructor published books, journals, conference papers, something like that that shows the knowledge is useful and appreciated? Can the instructor teach? I remember when I was at UMUC, I hired a new instructor, and when he taught his class the first week, I got lots of complaints back from the students. It said the instructor sat down and started to read the textbook to the students. So I had a quiet word with the instructor and the situation righted itself. So does the instructor have book knowledge? Or can the instructor share stories? When you get your instructor to share experience stories, those are the best lessons you will experience. And whatever other credentials the instructor may have. Style. Do you like his teaching style? Is it compatible with your learning style? Is there chemistry between you? Do you get on together? Do you communicate well? And so on. What about learning and retention of the learning? This is based on the learning pyramid, which some people don't like anymore, but to me it seems to work quite well. Notice that lecturing is the worst way of learning something. Teaching others for immediate use and practice by doing are much better. Will your course contain teaching, practicing, or is it only lecture? You need to consider that. What about your attention span? How does the instructor on course deal with the attention span? Here's a study from Techniques for Technical Training showing attention span of students taking classes learning to service communication equipment. And you can see how the attention span goes up 5 minutes into the class, and then it drops until 40 minutes later the attention span is coming back up. The book didn't actually say when the class ended, but I figured that the attention span was coming back up because the students were listening for those magic words, class dismissed. And what about delivery? In block mode, it's when you take a class that takes 2 to 5 solid days. It's compact, you've got a minimum amount of time off work, but it does not usually cover the needed knowledge in full because there isn't time. It's the worst learning experience because there's no thinking time and it's mostly lectures with maybe 1 or 2 exercises. Very few stories because the instructor is busy telling you what's on the PowerPoint slides and expanding on them a little bit. There isn't any time for you to discuss your problems, and it advances according to the instructor's schedule. The class has to start at the beginning of the time and it definitely has to end by the end of the last day. Minimum opportunity to extend your personal network by meeting and talking to people during the breaks. The next delivery mode I'll mention is weekly or semester mode that you get in the universities. It's 2 to 3 hours of class a week. It runs 10 to 12 weeks. The typical postgraduate university format. It takes minimum time off work. It covers a lot more needed knowledge. You get some thinking time, but again, it's limited by the schedule because you've got to complete 1 class, 1 week, and that's learning, doing the exercises, homework, and so on. It still tends to be lecture focus or some sort of flipped classroom teaching approach or problem-based learning, but generally more lecture focused. There's more time for the exercises, but again, you've got fixed delivery dates. You have to deliver the exercise before the next week starts. A few more experiential stories because there's time, but not much time to discuss participant problems. And again, it advances according to the instructor's schedule. There's a better opportunity to extend your personal network because you can work with other students in teams over time and you can get a feel for what they're like to work with and talk to. A little bit about the delivery pedagogy. You can see Bloom's modified taxonomy in the colored triangle, and a classroom session contains a lecture, exercises, knowledge readings, and the individual assignment. Knowledge readings is something I invented. It took a few years to modify and refine it into its current format, but it's basically where you, the student, actually lecture the material and I get a chance to critique it, and other students get to see all sorts of things about it. And there's another video somewhere on my YouTube channel about knowledge readings if you're interested more. As you can see from the table at the bottom, if you look at how Bloom's taxonomy stacks up with the teaching methods, no idea about the lectures. The lectures do not test remembering and understanding because they're open loop. On the other hand, when you do exercises, depending on how they're set up, quizzes can test what you remember, they can test what you understand, and other exercises as well as quizzes can be used to apply the knowledge. But when it actually comes to analyzing, evaluating, and creating, those are the higher levels of Bloom's taxonomy, the knowledge readings provide that, as well as the understanding and remembering. Delivery mode EverCourse. This is something I have put together. There's no time limit. It is a mixture of live and recorded, synchronous and asynchronous. The synchronous live weekly Zoom scheduled group discussions allow us to talk about the exercises and the material. Students do exercises and knowledge reading presentations, and they learn from the content, the delivery, and the comparison of what other students do on the same exercises. As I said, immediate correction on misinterpretations. We can discuss participant problems when there's time because not everybody has done their exercises because they don't need to do the exercises every session. They can take their time. And you learn by absorption, which is a much better way of learning. And then there are asynchronous discussions in the private Facebook group, which is also used for posting information and so on, asking questions out of class. And it gives everybody some thinking time before responding. And notices of interest also get posted there, references to additional material of interest, and so on. And as I said, it's self-paced for individuals. You don't want to do an exercise that week, you don't have the time because of work constraints or whatever, don't do it. Take the time to spend on whatever else you need, and then when your mind comes back to the class, you move ahead. But beware of procrastination. There's a tendency not to do any exercises for a while. You need to be able to set your own goals and schedule in order to complete the exercises. The instructor becomes your coach and your mentor because this class goes on for months, and that's worth $50,000 at least. My prototype class on systems engineering has been running for 6 months now, and when I mentioned that to the students, they were really concerned that I was going to stop it. They didn't want to stop it. And one student said he was planning on coming back in a few months to discuss some problems in what would be his new job then. And it's a good opportunity to extend your personal network because you're working with these people and seeing them and talking them in class for a long time. Now let's take a look at content. And the content is course specific. But you need to figure out, will the content provide a solution to your problem? Does it teach you how to solve problems, or does it just provide knowledge? What type of knowledge? Declarative, procedural, or conditional? Does it help you think? Is it a depth or a breadth course? Is it a single tool or a multiple tool course? For example, if you take a course on systems thinking or model-based systems engineering, does it just tell you about one vendor's tool or one person's approach, or does it discuss the other ones as well, even if it does focus on a single tool? Will it help you become good, better, or outstanding? What is the added value as opposed to reading two different textbooks? Does the content cover relevant certification requirements? Will the course be easy, medium, or hard? It depends what your goal is. Do you want an easy course just to get a qualification? You need to do some research to find out. How about systems thinking course? Does it talk about causal loops or does it talk about other tools? Is it a single focus? Does it tell you the type of problems which can be solved by systems thinking and which can't? For example, if your car won't start on a cold winter morning, systems thinking will not help you. Does it tell you about the benefits of systems thinking, or does it actually show you how to use systems thinking to create solutions to real-world problems? Does it provide different views on systems thinking, or only the instructor's view? What about critical thinking? Is that in there as well? What about systemic and systematic thinking? Or does it pick systems thinking as an entity without showing how it connects to problem solving? And what about a course on systems engineering? Does it focus on systems engineering as a problem-solving approach or as process? Which version of which process? There are many versions of the processes. Does it cover system development? Does it cover commercial off-the-shelf integration? What types of problems can or cannot be solved by systems engineering? There are a lot of system engineering practitioners who think systems engineering is the solution, or systems engineering provides the solution to all types of problems. This is Maslow's hammer syndrome, when Maslow wrote words to the effect that were, if the only tool I have a hammer, all problems look by nails. There are problems which cannot be solved by systems engineering, believe it or not. Does it teach you how to use systems engineering to create solutions to real-world problems? Or does it just discuss the what of systems engineering? Does it show you that there are different views on what systems engineering is, or does it just give you the instructor's view? In fact, there are 7 different views if you aggregate all the views together. Does it explain what systems engineers do in the different states of the life cycle? And which state you are in, and is that the one the course is going to cover? And what about the relationship of systems engineering to software engineering and other technical disciplines? Is that discussed? Do you care? Supposing we go into a depth class on requirements. Does it only focus on grammar and structure, or is there more? Does it teach you how to identify and manage stakeholders when you're elucidating, and managing the development of the requirements through the system development process? Does it teach you how to use models to create system requirements? Does it show you how to model requirements, how to elucidate the requirements, and specifically from stakeholders who don't know what they want? What about the use of requirements over the entire system development process? What are requirements actually used for? Do you know? Will the class show you? And what additional attributes of requirements are useful, like acceptance criteria, priority, risk, etc.? If you think about it, if you ask for an acceptance criteria, which is basically answer to the question of how will we know when the requirement is met, you end up with very few vague requirements. If you prioritize the requirements and you look at the risk involved, this is sort of feasibility study work at requirements elicitation time, you can end up with a list of priorities so that when the budget is cut later, you know which requirements to cut out. You can look at risk and priority and compare them, and you can have a low priority, high risk requirement and ask the question, why is it there? Similarly, you can look at cost or estimated cost, and if you have a high cost, low priority requirement, you can again ask the question of why is the requirement there? Does your class cover that kind of material? And another class, for example, model-based systems engineering. Does it only cover SysML grammar and structure, or does it talk a little more? Does it talk about other modeling languages? They do exist. How about, does it tell you about the purpose of the models, different types of models and their suitability? There are process and product models and variations of each. There are conceptual models and real-world models, and there's differences between them. And what about the limitations of models? Does it tell you anything about that? Does it show you how to create models? Take causal loops, put them together and create models. And how to link the models. Does it cover the use of one vendor's tool, or Does it show you the different tools, or is it even vendor tool independent? And what about project management? Traditional classes on project management tell you how to create project plans. They deal with staffing, costs, and estimates, but they don't tell you how to recognize outstanding staff. You can recognize outstanding staff when you're hiring by looking at their resume and looking to see if they have any awards and achievements rather than the resumes being job descriptions. Exactly the same as I talked about when you were evaluating an instructor. Because if you think about it, you're actually hiring the instructor to teach you knowledge that you didn't know and provide you with the information you need to achieve your goal. Does it focus on cost and schedule? Does it cover change management? Projects spend most of their time being managed, and yet most of the textbooks focus on the front end of creating the project plan rather than dealing with a project plan and what happens when something goes wrong. In my class on project management, the students spend the first half of the semester or the first half of the course creating the project plan, basic cost and schedule and staffing. But then when they're learning the rest of the aspects of the project management body of knowledge, they have to deal with what goes wrong on their projects and how they react to it. And it's the discussions on dealing with what goes wrong and how they react to it that the students start realizing that the real world is different to the book, and there are factors that come out in those discussions that would never come out in a lecture. And what about reducing cost and schedules and how to do it? Mostly painlessly or with a minimum amount of pain and effort. Does it deal with the triple or quadruple constraints? What are the quadruple constraints you ask for? They're people. The biggest failure object in a project is a person. You get good people and you get bad people. People are not interchangeable. It's people that make or break the project. What about rewards and recognition? Does it show you how to reward and recognize people to maintain morale or just reward them without any ulterior motive? What about risks and risk management? Is that in there? And personal skills and interpersonal skills. Do you have any of that? You might want to look at the Institute of Certified Professional Managers and their Certified Manager program. That is an achievement worth getting. Been there, done that. Proud of it. So you take some of those criteria, you put them together. You can look at the criteria: content, travel, online, face-to-face, schedule, instructors' qualifications, how it's taught, the pedagogy, what's the focus, how easy it is to attend it and learn. What about some networking? What about the instructor's role? Is the instructor a teacher? If you're in the block mode or the weekly mode, when the course is over, you say goodbye to the teacher and you rarely see them again unless you've developed a relationship with the teacher during the course. And that means you have to be an outstanding student usually. You then need to take this information and go through the selection process. Use those selection criteria and any other ones you come up with. Know your goal. Know why you want to take a course. Identify the courses to consider. Identify the selection criteria. They might be cost, ease of attendance, schedule, content, ease of content, pedagogy, location, instructor, risk, and so on. Use your favorite decision-making tool to make the selection. And I don't mean flipping a coin. Rate the criteria according to how they contribute or detract from meeting your goal. And you can now justify your decision objectively to the person funding the attendance, if it isn't you. Notice I've just gone through the problem-solving process, but I never used any words associated with the problem-solving process. So in summary, I talked about selection criteria you need to know, because if you don't use these selection criteria, you can end up in the wrong course. And the content needs to be researched before signing up for the course. Not only the content, but the delivery mode and all the other important criteria to you. Block mode may be slightly better than reading the book, but it does force you to expose yourself to the knowledge. The weekly mode provides added value through practical exercises and a little more networking, but the EverCourse format is best for learning, but it's not suitable for all situations. 1 minute for the commercial. If you're good at what you do and want to become outstanding at it, then you need to talk to me about how and why the following EverCourse programs can help you. creating outstanding systems thinkers, creating outstanding project managers, and creating outstanding systems engineers. You were taught in school how to deal with mathematical problems by learning addition, subtraction, division, and multiplication. But did anybody actually teach you how to think and how to solve problems before you started learning about project management and systems engineering and doing it? In my classes, you have to take the Creating Outstanding Systems Thinkers class before you get to Creating Outstanding Project Managers or Systems Engineers. In fact, if you sign up for Project Managers or Systems Engineers, you get a free Systems Thinkers class. If you're interested, contact me and let's talk about it. Remember, the literature on excellence, and these books are a bit dated now, it's full of advice as to how to make projects succeed. It has little, if anything, to say about the proliferating process standards. So thank you very much for taking the time to listen to this presentation, and whichever course you take, I hope you are now more informed and can select the optimum one. Thank you again for listening.